I think in 2000, when my eldest brother told me I had to go play basketball. And um, I just lost my dad not too long. Um, and all of a sudden I'm being told to go play basketball. I think it was late 2000. And I went to the basketball court. I'd never really seen a basketball before. And got to the basketball court and I saw people just running up and down trying to put this basketball in this little basket up there. And I just kind of wondered because in Nigeria, there's this stigma associated with people who play sports that they don't want to go to school. And I grew up thinking that way. And I just, I was just not interested, and my brother told me that he wanted me to play basketball. And so reluctantly, he bought me a basketball and he gave me a new pair of Air Jordans. and and that was how my basketball journey began. And once I tried to shoot the ball and I missed, um, I never wanted to stop. I wanted to shoot until I couldn't miss, and I wanted to keep going. And that was really my first encounter with basketball, and just holding the ball in my hands and trying to shoot. I then became one of those people that was running around trying to put the little ball in that basket, and it never stopped since. Well, I ended up in Manchester. We had played in this tournament in Nigeria that we won. I was very young in the game, and we're supposed to go to the UK to play. So I had a visa, it never happened because the government changed their mind last minute. And so I still had time on my visa. My brother came and said, hey, my brother lives in London till today. And he said, hey, you need to come to England and just, hang out. I said, no. And he said, okay, if you came to England, I would look for a basketball place where you can go and, and I just wondered, my mom was just recently widowed. I had a lot of responsibilities at home. I really felt like I needed to go to the US and not to the UK. And so I said no. So it took my pastor and my mom saying, hey, just go see what it's about. Plus you get to play basketball, right? Like, and see what basketball is like in another country. And so I embarked on that journey to the UK, and getting there, I think my brother just kind of went through a manual and found the Amechi Basketball Center had just opened, and he reached out to Joe Forber. He looked at the thing. I think he had reached out to Brixton or something like that. But somehow Mr. Joe Forber and Mr. Jones just said, hey, well, bring him. We have a camp that's going on. He should come be a part of the camp. Yeah, for me, it was just really amazing how Mr. Forber and Mrs. Forber, Maggie and Joe, how they really just rallied around me. Mr. Jones as well, and Mr. Brian. Everyone at the Amechi Basketball Center just took me in as their own. I was I thought that I was the child of the Amechi Basketball Center. I was very much raised by community, and so that's how I came to the center. You talk to them about it. You talk to Sergio. You talk to Paul Middleton. And you talk to Mr. Graham, you talk to Mr. Brian Dobson, all of them, everybody just had a huge hand in helping raise me, whether it's the ministers, making sure I got to school, I got to the grocery store, that I had a ride home, I had a ride to practice, that I wasn't alone on holidays, and that I was having, I was, coming to their homes for meals. It was just yeah, everyone just really rallied around me to ensure that I felt at home. And that's something that I still till today I don't take for granted. almost a year into my stay, I had to go back to Nigeria to rework my documents, and I was in Nigeria for about 8 months. And in those 8 months, I think the UK embassy, they just kind of took my documents and put it somewhere. And every time I went back, I missed almost a year of school. They kept saying, we're looking into your situation. But in that 8 months, the commitment of the center never wavered. Mr. Forber, Mrs. Forber, everyone was reaching out, just helping me with what I needed to make sure that I didn't give up, because it was that year. It was probably the toughest year of my life, because you just felt like, now I have this dream, I have these goals, and all of a sudden I'm back here. There's nothing for me to do. And if I didn't get my visa, I don't know what would have happened. So they stayed with me through it until, my brother came back from England and took me to the embassy. And the officer basically said, hey, I'm sorry, I don't know what happened, and gave me my student visa. And I returned back to the Amechi Basketball Center. Just really a huge defining moment in my journey, because those are those moments where things go the other way and I don't know what would have become of me. So I still, when I think about my journey with the center, I think about my time there, but I also think about that those 8 months when I was away, and how nothing wavered. If it was scanning documents, or if it was writing letters, Mr. Forber was on top of it, and even sending me some money for my upkeep and what I needed to make sure I didn't give up. When I think about the children that we serve today, I tell him all the time, and I think he thinks I'm joking, where I say what I'm doing today is an extension of the Amechi Basketball Center. It's how he treated me, how I felt treated. It's the same things that I'm trying to pass on to the children that we serve through Access to Success. I don't know. I don't think I could shoot to save my life. But if there was a ball in the air, I felt like it belonged to me. If it was a rebound, I felt like it belonged to me. I take pride on defense. I get more upset when you score on me than when I miss a shot. So that was me. It didn't matter how small you were or how big you were, or my size really did not matter to me. I just had this, when you score on me, it hurts me. So I would rather do everything that I could. So I was just this aggressive player. I love to rebound. I love to rebound, and I love to run the floor. And that was really the formative part of my basketball, was just, my coach in Davidson would say, run, rebound, and defend. I think those were my qualities, and I think over time my game continued to evolve. Players often think that when you play offense, then you have enough. Playing well on offense then gives you this energy to to play great defense. But for me, my journey was different. It was actually playing good defense that really gave me the confidence on offense, because if I could stop you, then I kind of had a feeling that I could put the ball back in the hole, or I could improve my shot. So that was kind of the progression so if you think about the type of player that I was just that player that I was very aggressive, and I took pride in protecting the basket, and in rebounding, and in running the floor. So I would say those three: running, rebounding, and defending. Yeah. I always liked Tim Duncan. I liked him for not just how he played basketball, but how he carried himself. I always heard great things about. I always had heard great things about Tim Duncan. So I watched him a lot. Until he retired, he was that person that I always watched how he conducted himself on the court and off the court. And yeah, I try to model my game. Obviously, he's like 7 foot tall, and I try to model my game around his. But yeah, he was that guy that I would say as a basketball player, I did look up to. I think it was just that camaraderie that we built over time. I really enjoyed that time on the court because, we played basketball, but outside of basketball, there was something more that was going on that we got to be a part of, whether I was reffing, I was pumping the balls. I got to see families walk through the door, and I got to see the children have a good time. And I got to be a part of that. And I got to do it with people I cared about and people who cared about me. Those were some fun personal memories that I felt like they weren't just one off, they were repetitive. It was every day and it was consistent. I would say um, off the court, it was just spending time with people. I still remember me and Adam Slater and Alan Metcalf and Jack Minister, Callum Jones, James Jones. I remember us going on, I think it was an Easter trip. Harris Charalambos, just taking a trip together, and I think spending time with Alan's family, so those types of moments for me off the court are things that I still remember. On the basketball court, I would say just having great coaches. Coach Althouse and Coach Sergio. They weren't just coaches; they were role models. Like they wanted so bad for us to succeed, to learn the game of basketball. And so many times they stepped in as big brothers. They stepped in as, I think for me, they were forced to play that fatherly role, right? Most people like them. So there were times where they stepped in. I remember Sergio just looking at me and saying, listen, you don't have the luxury of making certain mistakes, right? And that's understanding himself being an immigrant and myself being an immigrant, saying, hey, you can't make this mistake because you might ruin everything, right? Just saying that to me changed my life. Or Nate Althouse just pushing me and trying to get me ready for what was to come, and just being there. Like when no one was there, he made sure I had food and made sure. And when I came to the US, he drove all the way from Pennsylvania to bring me my first TV, right? Like for me, those were fun memories. There are too many to mention, but those are just a few for me. Or Joe and Maggie attending my parents' teachers' meetings, at Loretto College. Yeah, so when I say I was raised by community, you know what I mean. What I really wanted to achieve was to play basketball at the highest level. And at that time, I don't think that I really ever thought about the NBA the way most kids think about it. I think my process has always been to get to the next level, and the next level for me, I don't think I had this wild dream of playing in the NBA until maybe I got to college. So for me, when I was at the Amechi Basketball Center, I just wanted to go to a good school, and I wanted to go and play basketball at a good college. And so that was kind of like the next step for me. That's where I was heading. But very much at the back of my mind was I kept thinking about how I wanted to give back a lot of what I'd been given. I hope I didn't, but I never had a sense of entitlement. Every time I was blessed with a gift, whether it was the gift of someone's time, was a gift of their talent, it was a gift of their resources. For me, I felt like knowing my background, there was a reason I was being given that gift, and it was to pass it on. And so as I was aspiring on the basketball court, I felt like I was in that unique position, whether it was as a student at Loretto College or whether I was as a student at Davidson College. I was very lucky to be where I was. And I always say the two biggest gifts I've been given is the gift of love and consistency. And very much so, the center provided that. So as I was thinking about the next level, I also had that at the back of my mind. All of these things that I'm being given, how do I give it back? And who do I give it back to? And so that very much was my aspiration, was I wanted to get to the next level at school on the basketball court. And then very much most important was, how do I pass this on? Coach McKillop. We were talking to schools here and there, but Coach was the only one who came he came all the way from the US to see me. And he never saw me play before he offered me a scholarship. He saw me cleaning the floor, right? Because that's what I did before. I'm sure someone does that now. I was cleaning the floor every day before the kids came, when you're just closing from school. I think it used to start, maybe we started at 5 p.m. then. So it was on me to to clean the floor. So he came and he offered me a scholarship. I'd never really seen, I think Coach had talked to him, and obviously he has a great relationship with Coach. But that was how that happened. Davidson was on the radar after that. And then I think just having Terrell Ivory in Manchester also helped, because he told me a lot about Coach's character and the heart of the school. And so I was probably that student that never took an official visit to Davidson before accepting to go to Davidson. Yeah, so that was how Davidson happened. Just Coach came, he offered me a scholarship, and then after a while, I accepted. I've having seen him in person, and I think he traveled down a couple of times. I think maybe 2 times or 3 times, I'm not sure. But just hearing him talk about the program, hearing him talk about me and how he wanted to teach me the game. I think for me, it was just everything. And I do remember him say, "I will be more than a coach to you." Davidson was just the perfect fit. It was a Davidson was just a continuation of, it was almost like the Amechi Basketball Center passed me on to Davidson, right? And say, hey, continue what we've started. And I would not trade my journey at Davidson for anything in the world. It's I live there now. It's where I'm raising my kids, and I met my wife in school at Davidson, and Davidson is very much at the core of what we do in terms of support at A2S. So yeah, it's a blessing to be a part of the community. I think again, for me at the time, like Davidson had the code of trust, commitment, and care. And it sounded trivial to me when I stepped on campus and they said, hey, you need to, before you walk into the locker room, you need to tap on this thing that says trust, commitment, care, 3 times. And now, even 13 years later, if I ever saw that, or I'm about to walk in the locker room, I still tap it 3 times. I think, just the code of, can you be trusted to do your best even when no one is watching, right? Do you care enough, or are you committed to the team's goals? And and you think about those, and I think about how Coach has kind of modeled the program after that. It wasn't just about basketball, it was about life. And Coach taught us at a very earlier on stage that the way, if you're sloppy on the basketball court, you're going to be sloppy in life, right? And there were so many terminologies that we used on the court that really translated in life. Like marriages break down because of a lack of communication, so you have to talk on the basketball court. And sloppiness is a disease, right? Those are terms that have come to become a part of me in the way I live my life daily, or run the organization. Or it's, you help somebody, you help yourself, right? You set a screen for someone, you often get rewarded if you set the screen the right way. And I think all of that is framed around the code of trust, commitment, and care. And you know, coach will say, hey, our objective every day is to get better, is to have fun, is to play to win, not to play, not to lose, right? And then to make every play count. You know, and then now it's the very same things that I use for our kids in Nigeria. When I think about life, I tell them, I say, hey, you have to have fun every day. You have to make every moment count. You have to live to be a success. Don't live not to be a failure, right? And you have to make every moment count. So those are very much things that they were so structured in a way that they always came at the right time. And those things have become the building blocks of my life, in how I approach work, in how I approach my relationships, and in how I do approach my encounters, because beyond basketball, that was the message coach was trying to pass across, is that basketball ends at some point. How can you use the gift of basketball to prepare you for everyday life, to prepare you to be a better husband, a better brother, a better father, a better person in your community? And that's why I say I will not take my time for Davidson for granted, because it really shaped the rest of my existence. And I think Davidson wasn't just preparing me to go to the NCAA tournament or to win a championship. Davidson was preparing me to be a better person, to be the best version of myself. And when I really talk to kids who are looking to go to school today, that's something that I continue to hound on, because it's something that I feel like I enjoy. Some of my best friends are my teammates from college till today. And in one way or another, we continue to impact each other and impact the world and do some good in this world together. And there's no greater feeling than that. I think for us it was special, but I think when I remember that, I I remember coach telling us at the beginning of the year that we are going to be the hardest working team in the country, and you know, as a player, you're like, oh my God, he's going to kick our butt in practice, right? um, but that was right off the bat. Coach saw something in us that we probably didn't see in ourselves. And he told us from the get-go that we're going to be the most hardworking team in the country. But something else that I thought was unique was that we each had a role to play, from the first person on the bench to the guy to the managers on the team. Um, Everyone on that team played a role. Some of them, you see them, you know, you can talk about Steph Curry, or you can talk about our point guard, Jason Richards. And they were the guys that mostly carried the torch for the rest of the team, and they were the ones in the spotlight. But the reality is that so many others made that work. There were players that made Steph better in practice. There were players that showed up to work their butts off, right, just so that the rest of the team could be the rest of the team could be prepared. And I think for me, behind the scenes, that's the beauty of it all. You know, I would always I think you know, you can talk about me and you can talk about Steph or Jason or Thomas or Max, but my unique moment in the whole run is my own roommate, Chivi, right? Chivi came to college like me, great basketball player. He didn't really get a chance to play as much as, you know, you come to college and he's a guard, I'm a big, and we're thinking about, man, when we really start playing together, I'll be throwing you alley-oops and, you know, I'll be doing this. And all of a sudden our trajectory took a different turn. Um, and Chivi was not too happy because I was playing and he wasn't really playing, you know? And our junior year, I will never forget, he came to the room and he said, you know what? I'm not going to worry about whether coach is playing me as much or not, right? He said, I'm getting a great education. I'm surrounded by guys that I love. It's like, you know what? I'm just going to go out there and I'm going to bust my butt every day, right? That's what you don't see in the papers. That's someone making a commitment to the team, right? And that's a little piece that clicked. because he then showed up to practice working his butt off that year. He then showed up, not worried about whether he got playing time or not. He showed up for the team every single day. Um, and I think when you think about that run, that for me was what was special about it, was that we cared about each other so much that nobody was thinking about themselves. Um, and it was kind of funny how that translated on the court. And when you think about all the points that were put up, and I watch the clips, all I see is when my teammate makes a mistake, I knew exactly how to step in, and he knew exactly how to recover. And I think for me, it was just when you said the word team, we were actually a team, right? You know, Steph had just such a great run, but Steph's run was within the confines of the system. So Steph wasn't doing anything outside of the system, right? It was what we had worked on, and he was just shining within the system. Um, and so for me, that was, you know, sometimes players feel like, oh, I'm going to play hero ball and I'm going to do it, and coach is going to bend to my will. But really, what happened was a player who was really thriving, and everyone was celebrating, you know, each other in the midst of that. So I think for me, it was just how everyone clicked. We were really, in every sense of the word, a team. You know, he cares, right? He cares about me, and that was just from being my teammate. And you know, like I said earlier, I said the best part of being at Davidson was that my teammates became lifelong friends. Um, and I don't think there's really any secret sauce to it. I think it's just because we have so much shared history, and we have so many memories that we made together being teammates, and that there's just something that's joyful about being young men and then watching our lives unfold, right? Watching our lives unfold before our very eyes, you know, watching him become a husband, and then watching him become a father, and then watching him kind of transcend life with his journey in the NBA, and him also following my journey, right? And me being just a cheerleader. So it's, you know, just like we cheered each other on the basketball court, we continue to cheer each other in life. And so I don't, you know, I could say the same for Steph, but I say the same for the rest of my teammates. It's that we all share. I think just from me talking to you right now, I've received a text message from one of my former teammates, right? Like, so it's just that bond that we shared, and everyone is busy, but every now and then we've tried to make sure that we stay in touch, and that we remember each other, and then every now and then, share laughs from the memories that we've been very fortunate to create. I would say don't focus so much on the, you know, people always talk about the destination and the process. And sometimes you feel like you're so focused on the destination, you miss the joy in the process. Sometimes you get lost in the process and you miss the big picture of the destination. And I would say, you know, my advice would be keep both. Keep both in mind as you go through your day. Um, you can't focus so much on the destination, but you still need to keep it within a place where you can at least see it. And then just have joy in the process. Um, you know, sometimes it's, you know, people talk about, I'm going to use Steph because I know the kids like Steph if they're listening to me, is that everyone takes life so serious. Basketball, they take it so seriously. But one thing that sets Steph apart is the joy with which he plays the game. Um, you know, every time I hear commentators talk about him, I hear about them talking about, man, he's just so much fun to watch, right? He just brings so much joy to the game. Um, and that's what I would say. Like, don't lose the joy in the process, because once you lose it, it's hard to get back. And sometimes there's so many things that you have to go through as a aspiring basketball player. And so when you have joy and you play with joy, it's easy to play the game the right way. When you have joy in the process, it's easy for you to go to the basketball court and play as a team and focus on the larger goals than yourself. And so that's what I would say is, as you're trying to get to that destination that you can see right in front of you, don't lose the joy in the process, because when you have joy, everything else really just falls in place. Your joy affects your approach, it affects your attitude, it just affects the nature with which you do things and say things and really build. So that would be my advice. Don't lose your joy in the process. Just hold on to it, and make sure you're not forgetting the destination as well. Keep it somewhere where you can see it. It's just taking me on a wild ride, and I never, people look at basketball as a means to an end, but I never looked at it that way. So basketball came to an end, but I did have a life after basketball. And what it did was it helped frame my purpose and really catapult me into what I was meant to be doing. And that's where I am today, is using the platform of basketball and everything that it's built, helped build around me to really shape the next generation. And I am thankful that he put a basketball in my hands. I'm thankful for my brother in London pushing me to come to the UK. He has been just my rock, just a great believer in me. If anyone believed in me more than I believed in myself, is my elder brother in London till today. And so just being able to have that community that has shown me that love and consistency is everything, and I'm grateful for it every day. And I tell you, Phil, is just I wake up every morning and I'm thinking about how to put food on the tables of children who don't have their next meal. I think about creating a camp experience for a child who's never been to camp, or putting shoes on the feet of children, or creating a safe environment for children to play, or creating entrepreneurial opportunities for children or youth with innovative ideas. And that's what keeps me up at night. How much joy can one need, right? And to do that, I say that because that's what the Amechi Basketball Center prepared me for. Didn't just prepare me for my aspirations on the basketball court, but prepared me for life. And how everyone there treated me today. And when I talk to our staff in Nigeria, I tell them and I say, the people who paid my fees to go to school had no reason to do it. They were not my blood relatives. They were in no way connected to me. So the way we are going to operate is we're going to look for that child who absolutely needs the help, and they will get the help that they need. And so it's shaped me, it's shaped what I do, and it's shaped how I approach my daily life. So I hope that the people in Manchester understand that by God's grace, the investment of their time in me, that I'm doing the very best I can to pass it on every day. Because I see myself in the children that we serve. I see that child who doesn't know where their next meal is coming from, and yeah, I get to take them grocery shopping, like Coach Sergio, Coach Nate, and Coach Middleton got to do. I get to give them rides home, like like people at the center did. I get to invite them to my home for dinner. So all of those things that people really sacrificed and with love did for me. My wife and I are trying to do the very same for as many children as we can, and we're getting better at it. We're not perfect, but we're trying, and I just hope that they are encouraged by that. And I hope that the young kids at the center who are coming to play basketball, they think about it, that they think about the time that people are sacrificing for them to get an opportunity to step on the hardwood, they think about what that means. It's easy to think that it's your right to be on the hardwood, right? And you don't see it as a privilege. Not every child has that privilege to get on a hardwood like the floor. So hopefully they look at the time that's been invested in them and they start thinking about not just I want to go to the NBA, I want to play, or I need playing time, but they start thinking about this is time. What am I going to do with these relationships that I'm surrounded by? And what am I going to do with all this time that's been poured into me? How do I give it back? That should be at the very essence of our everyday, because life is not always about us. It's really about what we do with what we've been given. So yeah, I want to thank you, and I want to thank everyone. You all raised me over there, and yeah, I look forward to my next visit. I am very much a child raised by community, and when I get a chance to, I want to say thank you as much as possible. I'm very grateful.